The Lui Diaz Podcast.
See, the location, as you said, it's an interesting location. There's a lot of work to come here and set it up.
Yeah, for sure.
So when my guest comes early, I'm like, I'm rattled.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. But it's great to have you here, man.
Good to be here.
Thanks for coming along and being so flexible and changing your day and time to accommodate me.
There was a little bit on, so yeah.
Yeah, what is happening? What's happening tomorrow?
Very long story.
Yeah.
We got time?
Yeah.
25 years ago, on the back of the Bloke single, someone approached me about making a movie. It was going to be called Mr. Average. It was about my character, Scott Burke, was a builder's labourer in eastern Melbourne. He gets discovered and saves a failing Australian soap opera and becomes famous, etc., etc. We filmed that whole film. It never got released. They ran out of funding. They approached me a year or two later and said, we've rewritten the script. We've made it a little bit bigger instead of getting on an Australian soap.
Yeah.
He goes to Hollywood and becomes famous. So we went to Hollywood for 2 weeks, 24 years ago. We filmed a lot of external shots. We had people like Corey Feldman playing a part, Rowdy Roddy Piper, the wrestler, playing a part. Then we came back from that. We're going to film the rest of that back here in Melbourne. They ran out of funding. It never happened. They've been at me for 25 years to try and get something out of this film. So I wrote a script that involved me in current time meeting a fan in a pub and telling him the story. So any of the bits we hadn't filmed, we could just go to dialogue in the pub, basically, and then cut back to footage 25 years ago.
Very creative way of solving that problem.
We filmed that 5 years ago, and still nothing happened, and they've decided they need another day of shooting to complete that.
Yep.
So it's myself and Warwick Kappa playing my mate in a bar, and we're just filming the bits we need to finish it off. I don't know if it'll be any good or not, but I believe the only film that's without CGI having the characters aged 25 years in the film.
That's wild.
25
years in the making.
So now it's called Yesterday's Hero because it's about my past, my character's past of making it famous and just reliving the story. So
That's unbelievable that they're so determined to keep this thing alive.
yeah, I don't even consider myself a good actor. And I've got the lead role. So yeah.
Oh, that's funny. You're right. 25 years. It's a 25-year anniversary of
Bloke.
Bloke.
Yeah. So my character in this film was aged 25 years in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And it came off the back of Bloke, you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot came off the back of Bloke, actually. You know, I was trying to do a little bit of research in the rush hour that I had between finishing work and getting here.
Yeah.
And, I read a little bit about born in Sydney, joined the Navy, were a chef. Hopefully I was reading up on the right person.
Yeah, that's me.
I didn't know. And then at some point, something really changed. I mean, you left the Navy and went travelling for 10 years.
Yep. I got to Western Australia and in my, probably late 20s, it was discovered that I had an alcohol problem. Who would have thought after all those years in the Navy?
Well, so far I've been with beers before.
I'd hit rock bottom. I went to an alcohol rehab. I lived there for 3 months, brought my tail between my legs and came back home to Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
I was basically living on my cousin's lounge room floor in Oakley and bumped into a guy in a pub that had been on Hey Hey It's Saturday, the TV show.
Well, what was his name?
Chris Bennett. He was there with another famous Melbourne comic called Pommy Johnson. They were there together.
Yeah, right.
I'd seen Chris on Hey Hey, so I was annoying the shit out of him for 8 hours in the pub going, here's one you can use and here's one you can use. He said, if you like your comedy that much, I'm hosting a show down at the Espy on Sunday. Come down, I'll put your name on the door.
How good was the Espy back then?
Oh, yeah. So I went down this particular Sunday, my name was on the door, and I went backstage to thank him. And he said, you're here, good, you're on. It was an open mic night, and he threw me on stage to get me back for annoying him for 8 hours. Yeah. So I stood blank on the stage at the Espy with him in the wings yelling out, here's one you can use, and there's one you can use. My maiden 5 minutes was 17 minutes of old Col Elliott jokes that I'd learnt as a kid. And walked off the stage thinking I was the king of comedy. And then...
So you got laughs?
Yeah, I was someone else's material.
Yeah.
Tried and tested material. I walked off thinking I was the king, and then the promoter, Trevor Hall, I said, how good was that? He said, yeah, not bad. Next time, write your own stuff. I went, shit, you got to write it as well.
Yeah.
But I got the bug from that. I did a few open mic spots, was lucky enough to win Raw that next April. So 3 months into comedy.
So that's an old competition. I didn't realise it was that old.
Yeah, I was the second winner of Raw. Back then it was run by Triple J. It was like unearthed for comedy.
Right, yeah.
And the prize was a trip to the Edinburgh Comedy Festival, and I did a bit of open mic over there. Came back, kept gigging because I'd won Raw. People wanted me to headline, but I still only had about 15 minutes of material.
Yeah. So
I worked really hard and got an hour up, and still using that same hour. Once I got that hour, I didn't write anymore.
Unbelievable. That's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
Like a hell of a recap of that gap that was missing for me.
Yeah, right.
Because like I said, and I used AI to help me because I was like, shit, I don't have time. Because we were supposed to record tomorrow.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was going to go home tonight and, like cook dinner and tuck in and start doing some reading.
Just check up on everything. Yeah.
But then you were like, oh, could we do it today? And I was like, okay, today's possible, but it means I'm going to have to scurry through and rush through research.
Well, you don't have to research because you can just ask me and I can tell you stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to know something though. And then that gap was really interesting. And wow, how to go from like, obviously having an alcohol problem, and there's so many ways that could unfold for someone.
I did the 3-month live-in rehab and remained sober for about 11 months. I got back into the alcohol around the same time I got into comedy.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, it's synonymous, isn't it?
Yeah, I was lucky enough where I'd matured enough where I wasn't hurting anyone with my drinking.
Yeah, right.
I could deal with it, and still drinking today.
Yeah, and
not right now. You are, but I'm not.
I feel a bit rude having a beer on my own, to be honest.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
I did offer one.
Yeah.
You can have one whenever you want.
It's 1 in the afternoon, and I've just been drunk for 3 months doing 3 months of festivals.
I know.
It'd be nice to have a day off.
I didn't. To be honest, I didn't know what else to get you.
Yeah.
I thought, I'll bring him something. The only thing I know for sure that he likes is a VB.
Normal rule of thumb for me is bare iced coffee through the day, and as soon as it gets dark, I'll get into the beers.
Right, so it's got to hit sundown.
Oh, yeah, somewhere.
Sun's got to look like it's
I mean, it's nighttime in America now. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's always dark somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. Right, well, that's incredible. That's an incredible start to that story. Let's just go back a little bit. We're here because I met Lars Calieou.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Calieou, is that?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, he's a bit greedy. He's got all the vowels in his surname.
Yeah. And very good guy. He came here, did the pod with me last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago.
Yep.
And he was like, oh, you've got to have Chris on, Chris Franklin. I was like, who's Chris Franklin? He was like, oh, like you wrote the song Bloke. I was just thinking, song Bloke? Because it's, it doesn't get played on the radio anymore. And then as soon as he starts singing it, Glass starts singing it, and I'm like, no way.
How did it sound with a Canadian accent?
It sounds weird. It does sound weird with a Canadian accent, I got to admit, but it's still, it still rung a bell. And as soon as he started singing the lyrics, there I am again. In Dever Hills, in the lounge room. I'm 16 years old. My 19-year-old brother and his 3 mates are getting ready to go to the Hallam pub. And one of them throws this on the CD player. And I've just been transported back to that moment where we were rolling on the floor laughing.
You were the guys that bought it, okay?
Yeah. Us and apparently 69,999 other people, because apparently it sold 70,000 copies.
It sold 125,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy good.
Yeah.
And that's something an artist today doesn't get to experience.
Yeah, that's right. It's all online now.
Yeah.
I released a song for COVID called Stay the Fuck at Home. But I was smart enough to get a lot of Australian famous singers and musicians to work on that one, so I didn't have to sing that much.
Yeah, right.
And it was released online, and nothing from it. I think we all ended up with about $11 each, the 27 artists that I got to perform on it, and they all said we'll donate it to Support Act, which is the charity for musicians, roadies, anyone that has become unwell later in life and needs financial help. So
yeah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, you don't fancy yourself as a singer.
Oh no.
Yeah, but you did it like the performance in Bloke is pretty good, if you don't mind me saying. Like it's appropriate. You know, you nailed it.
Louis, you were obviously tone deaf.
Yeah, I've been told that before, but when
Yeah.
when I'm playing guitar,
Yeah, right.
that's what I get told. But so you've gone from, you know, being in the Navy, having your challenge, and then being on a mate's couch. Now you're thrust into the world of being an artist.
It was weird. I won Raw in '98. Bloke came out 2 years later in 2000. So yeah, it just went like that. From that, I went from being pretty well homeless to buying a 2-story, 4-bedroom house on Magnetic Island with a built-in pool in the back. And I think the ex-wife still fucking got that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm happier than I've ever been for the last 10 years. I met Michelle. We're down in Tassie, and she can keep the fancy house up north. I'm loving life.
Yeah, you're in Tassie now, Launceston, right?
Yeah, it's pronounced Launceston.
Launceston.
Yeah.
Sorry, potato.
Yeah. I've never said potato in my life.
Neither have I.
You just did.
Okay, so you're so you're thrust into the world of being an artist, and now, you know, I think that once it sold 70,000 copies or something, you technically qualified as a platinum selling artist.
Yeah. I've got a gold and a platinum record on my wall at home, and gold is 35, platinum 70, and it did sell 135,000, so we're 5,000 short of double platinum.
Did you ever did you?
Nominated for 2 Arias, that song.
Yeah. Yeah. and this is okay, because I don't want to sound naive, but I can imagine, like you said, it was weird. Those were your words just then.
Mm-hmm.
Was this an accident? Like, was this kind of like, did you accidentally come up with something cool?
I guess so. I wrote the song for the aforementioned Pommy Johnson.
Yeah.
He played guitar on stage and did parodies.
Right.
He said, I've got an idea for a song. He said, I either want to do the song Bitch and write it about Pauline Hanson, or do the male response to the song Bitch and call it Bloke.
Right,
So I wrote both of them for him, and he chose the Bitch one about Pauline Hanson.
Right.
Performed that on stage a few times, and then I was finally working regularly, and I said, do you mind if I do that Bloke song? He said, you wrote it, go for it. Yeah. Then luckily someone from EMI was in an audience one day and wanted to record it. Yeah. Just at a comedy show, probably at the ESPY.
So you just your only plan for that song was to play it up on stage.
Yeah, that was it.
With Pommy on guitar?
No. I just had a backing track. It was just a
right.
karaoke version of the original Bitch
Brilliant.
on a little yellow cassette. I still remember it well.
Brilliant. And so, fast forward to today, like
28 years later from when I first got on stage.
yeah. I mean, you're running, so part of the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, you run the after party show at the Exford.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is, by the way, I was told about that show last year, but
Yeah.
I never made it last year.
Uh-huh.
The day I had Lars sitting in that chair, he was like, you've got to come tonight.
Yeah, right.
And that was my first night. I had such a good time.
Yeah, it's a loose, crazy show late at night in a public bar, completely free.
Yeah, you're
So
a great host, by the way.
You never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, exactly. It was a fantastic show. It was a great show. Like the highlight of the festival, really, for me.
Oh, thank you.
And I went twice. So good. I went twice. I went on a Sunday, and I went to your surprise gig that you did for the Storm on the Tuesday as well, where I also happened to become a hero of my daughter because one of her favourite players was there, and I got a photo with him.
Was that Harry Grant?
That was Xavier
Coates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That came about for the last 10 years, I reckon. The coaches have reached out. Craig Bellamy, for some reason, thinks I'm great. So every year they reach out and they ask me to organise or get them tickets to a show, and I approach all my friends who are doing shows and say, what have you got on a Thursday night that you can give 20 tickets away to?
Yep.
And Craig takes all his coaching staff out for dinner, including myself. Not that I'm coaching staff, but and then we go to the show. Yep. We've done that for about 10 years, and the players got wind of it. So I was down watching them train a couple of weeks ago, and Ryan Pappenhausen comes running off the training track and goes, Franklin, I hear you take the coaches out to a comedy show. And I said, yeah. He said, well, we want one. Yeah, right. Then it was...
was he there?
No, he never came. Yeah. Bronson Garlick was there. He ended up messaging me saying it's Tuesday night will work this week for us, and we'd like to see a lineup show. Yeah. And I could not find a good lineup show on the Tuesday night for them. And so I created one.
Nice.
And, yeah, we had a gap in the scheduling at Kicks where we could put a 1 hour show on, and that was that. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I guess, just trying to sort of articulate that thought, you've gone from someone who had nothing to do with the arts to sort of being almost, serendipitously weaved into it through meeting someone that was on AA and then, doing your bit at the SB and then someone from EMI's in the audience.
Yeah.
Like the serendipities, it's kind of wild. But it didn't end there. What I love is that you've really embraced the scene, the arts, and that you've become part of the culture of it.
You stay in anything long enough, people start talking about it. I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's weird to me. I still feel like I'm 20 inside, but I'm 60, and all the kids doing it today call me the old man of Australian comedy. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It's weird.
But it's great that but it's great that you're still involved. And I like, what I really love about your involvement is giving all these comics a spot on that show at the after party, and how many different acts come on, and some can be notable and others are just really green.
Yeah.
But everyone gets an equal shot.
We try and give everyone a chance. When I first took that show over 12 years ago, there was no stage, there was no spotlight. You were just standing in the corner annoying a public bar group that were there for a beer and a chat. So it was hard work. It was known as the Bear Pit, but over the 12 years, the stage has been introduced. There's spotlights now. It's actually become a show, and I can control the crowd a fair bit. So it's not as horrible as it used to be for the new greener acts. But we try and give everyone a chance, and it's a rite of passage, they believe, to have done the after party at the Exford. So, and when I took it over, it was all open mic comics, but through my friends in comedy, I've been able to introduce special guests. Dave Hughes drops in, Stephen K. Amos has dropped in, Dill Rucker's dropped in over the years, So, so you never know who's going to turn up there. And the friendship that I made with Lars 10 years ago, most of that time he's closed the show for me every night. So,
how did you and Lars meet?
At the Melbourne Comedy Festival. He'd come out here not knowing anyone, just doing a bit of networking, grabbing any show he could. He was told to get up at the after party, saw me hosting and wanted to have a chat to me afterwards. And then I took him on a bit of a look around Melbourne. I took him down to see the Melbourne Storm. We became mates, 2 or 3 years after that, with him continually coming here and our friendship growing, he invited me to Canada to do a tour over there, and we've done that every year since 2017. So that happens in August every year. I go to Canada, and in March he comes here. So yeah.
Oh, that's a great friendship. Yeah, it feels as though it's been a really, this whole experience that was a life-changing moment for you, waking up on that mate's couch.
Yeah, that was my cousin's floor, lounge room floor.
That's wild. It's just two completely different lives, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you ever think back to what if?
Yeah. Every time I'm walking the streets, I've got to be hosting a pub crawl in the festival or anything like that. Lars has said, I've never seen you walk past a homeless person without giving them a smoke or a few bucks. And I'd go, well, there for the love of God, go me. I was there not too long ago.
Yeah, 100%.
He tells a great story of, I don't know if he put it on his podcast. We were walking back from the storm and they'd given me the actual player's tracksuit. As a gift. And
was Franklin written on the back?
No, just Storm and all that. But I would never wear tracksuit pants. So as we're walking back, there was a homeless guy sitting outside of a church, and I said, these are still in the packet. Would you wear them if I gave them to you? And he said, of course I would. And he looked up and said, didn't you used to be Chris Franklin? Lars says, and that's when I knew he was famous. I looked down at him and said, didn't you used to be my accountant?
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's gold. I mean, we all want that. We want to be recognised by a homeless bloke on the street. But how kind of you. And I guess I got a really great sense from the people that I met and spoke to. So Lars was the first one, but then other people at the show that night were talking about how, warm you are, how warm of a character you are. And I think it does speak to, I guess, having lived and had experiences yourself that give you humility in life.
Never forget where you come from. They always say, be nice to the people on the way up because you're going to see them again on the way down, you know. So,
Oh, yeah. If you're listening, that's a good one. Be nice to the people on the way up. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough in comedy to be there in an era when there were good role model headliners like Dave Grant and people like that. And Dave would always go to the open mic and he'd give all the open mic guys information or advice on their set. He'd watch everyone.
Yeah.
He'd go there even when he wasn't on, just to help out the younger kids. So,
Yeah.
you know, give it a bit back. It doesn't cost anything.
No, for sure. I want to go back to post Edinburgh.
Yeah.
You've come back from Edinburgh, Edinburgh Raw, and then you've decided not Edinburgh Raw, Edinburgh Fringe Festival that you won the opportunity to go because of Raw.
It was interesting before we just going there, because it was the second year. The people who gave the prize were Emirates Airlines.
Right.
And they never actually flew to Edinburgh. And the prize was a return trip to Edinburgh. Right. What I actually got was a return trip to London, Heathrow, and I had to catch a bus up to Edinburgh for 8 hours and find my own accommodation and all that. So I made a point of saying, you know, this isn't what was advertised, and they've fixed that in those years. So, yeah. Now the winner actually goes there and competes in the equivalent competition in Edinburgh. Yeah. Which is the So You Think You're Funny competition.
Right, okay.
Yeah, which is ironic because if they win that, they win a trip back to Australia.
Yeah. Well done now, go home.
Yeah.
Very good. And so you come back from that. That was obviously a great experience.
Oh, yeah, amazing time.
You've decided to take up comedy, you know, you've decided to make a career of it.
Yeah, I got a job when I got back. I was a chef by trade, but I got a job working sort of midnight till 6 a.m. In a factory preparing vegetables for hotels. So like pubs that do meals, there's a factory that would get all their vegetables prepared and they'd put orders in and we'd ship them off to the pubs. Right. So I'd do a gig from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock. I'd go and start work at midnight and work through till 6 in the morning and then sleep all day. Yeah, right. And then, lucky enough to win Raw, and then the Bloke single happened and I didn't have to work through the night anymore. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, it's not really good because then I got to drink through the night.
Yeah. And so the Bloke, I'm trying to piece a few things together. Something like the Bloke single happens. And then what happens as an artist as soon as that drops? Like what then unfolds? It
debuted, interestingly, the CD was made and sent out to all the radio stations. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, the sample CDs that the record companies send out would end up being drink coasters for the DJs or whatever, you know. Yeah. Luckily enough, Gold FM breakfast team was Grubby and Dee Dee, and their chief comedy writer was Chris Bennett, the guy that I saw in the pub that night. And he saw the CD on the table and said, I know this guy, you should play this. And so it broke with Gold FM in Australia first, in Melbourne. Yeah. You're kidding. And then it got some traction. All the other stations in Melbourne started playing it, and then around the country. It debuted at number 15 when it was first released. It went to number 3 in the second week and number 1 in the third week. That's unbelievable. Stayed at number 1 for 3 weeks and was in the top 40 for 4.5 months.
You know, so I reckon some people are born under a lucky star. You know what I mean?
I just got lucky. Right time, right place.
Like everything you've said so far just feels like just one serendipitous thing after the other.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm a big believer in the saying, you make your own luck, right? Because you do. Inevitably, you put yourself in those situations to get lucky. But at the same time, it just feels like with your story, it's like time after time after time, and then, Chris Bennett just happens to be working there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, hello.
Yeah.
It's either Melbourne's a very small town or you're very lucky, or both. You know, and I think, I love hearing stories like that because it's just like, yeah, this was meant to happen for you. You couldn't avoid it if you tried.
I'm just noticing someone's spray painting here in Hosier Lane, which is famous for all its street art. Yeah. And the fumes are making me feel very relaxed.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah, it doesn't take much. It's that lady over there. She's painting a pink whippet, I think.
Nice.
Dog.
It's come up well.
Greyhound or something that she's painting. But yeah, it's a great spot to record the podcast. You know, podcasting's a funny medium. It's like a relatively new thing.
I've never done one in public before. I've done like staged podcasts on a stage for a live podcast with an audience, but I've never just done one in public like this before.
Yeah. You know what it is?
No, I'm good, mate.
You know what it is? You know what? It's that the whole process of being a podcast producer is pretty isolating.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting behind a computer a lot, emailing and this and that. And I thought, you know what? Let's make the production bit fun.
Yeah.
Let's just go out in the street. And at least, you know, it'll be like talking in a cafe.
Yeah, for sure.
Or a bar or a pub or whatever. And,
Or a laneway.
Yeah, exactly. And then
I love the
walk
people
past.
walking past. Yeah, look at the equipment these two homeless people have got.
Yeah, pretty much. People ask me if I sleep here, but then we get crowds of people taking photos of us and everything. So it's
nice.
pretty fun. It's pretty cool. So
You should have a hashtag on your neon there.
I got a
perfect.
I got it down there.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. You can't see that, of course, so it's fine. But I've got a QR code and everything there. So, okay, cool. Going back, you record an album or record a single. You print a whole bunch of CDs and send them to radio stations.
Oh, EMI did all of that for me.
Right.
One of the major record companies in the
so
country.
they were already sold on this thing.
Yeah. They approached me and said, we want to record your single. And I went, can you fucking hear me? Like, I can't see.
Hello?
They were adamant. Like the head of EMI Australia, a fellow by the name of Tony Harlow, flew to England and America to talk to the two writers of the original song, Meredith Brooks and Shelley Pekin, to get permission to do the parody. That's how confident they were in the success of it. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
And back in those days, a CD single sold for $10. $4 of those dollars went to the record company.
Yeah.
$4 went to the store that sold the record. And the artist got $2. Because it was a parody, the deal we cut with Shelley Pekin and Meredith Brooks was they got $1 and I got $1. So I got $1 per single. The song generated $1.35 million and I got $135,000 out of it.
Yeah, wow.
And so did they, though, which is more than they got for the original song Bitch here in Australia.
Yeah. Stores that sold it got 40%, and the guy who had the vision that heard you.
The record company.
The record company.
Yeah.
You know.
They get their money back on the investment. They pay the money to get it recorded, etc. And ironically, there was a recording studio at the back of the Espy, so the song was recorded at the Espy.
I remember that recording. I used to work at the Espy as a
right.
busboy.
Oysters Kilpatrick was the guy, the sound engineer working in there. Yeah. And ironically, just last year, tables have turned many years ago after the success of the song. I was doing headlining shows, and a young up-and-coming act that I took a liking to opened quite a bit for me, a fellow by the name of Jim Jeffries. So last year, Jim reaches out. He said, I'm playing in Tassie. If you're down there, would it be rude of me to ask you to open for me? I said, mate, I'd love to. And so I go to do the opening spot at the Hobart Entertainment Centre for Jim Jeffries, and the guy on the front of house desk is Oysters Kilpatrick, who recorded the single.
Unbelievable. Everyone's just, you know.
Yeah.
You see them on the way up. You see them on the way
That's
down.
right. I'm nice to Jim on the way up, and he's fucking nice to me on the way down.
And what an act he is. He's gone on to become.
Actually, last year when we went to Canada with Lars, we were doing a show in Lars's hometown of Edmonton, and Jim Jeffries was there doing a show with Jimmy Carr on the same night. So I contacted Jim and said, what are you doing after your show? We've got a show as well. And we all caught up in their hotel and drank from midnight till 4 in the morning. Just me, Lars, Ned Townsend was on the tour with us, Lindsay Webb, Jim Jeffries, Jimmy Carr. Yeah, just hanging out, having a beer.
So it seems like ever since Bloke, it's just been a whirlwind.
It's been crazy.
And that's 25 years.
I was sitting at Brisbane Airport.
35 years old. You were 35.
Yeah. I was 33 when I started comedy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I was sitting at Brisbane Airport with a fellow called Robbie Kearns, who was the captain of the Storm and captain of Australia.
I remember Robbie Kearns.
So we're flying up to Mackay. The Storm were playing the Bulldogs in Mackay for some reason. And so we're flying up, and we're in the Virgin Lounge in Brisbane Airport. The Prime Minister at the time, Kevin Rudd, and his entourage come into the Virgin Lounge, and they're all sitting around, and he keeps looking across, and Kevin's a Queenslander, Kearnsey's a Queenslander. I thought, oh, he's looking at the captain of Australia here, the ex-captain. He gets up and starts walking over. I think he's come to talk to Robbie Kearns, and I put my head back so that he could talk to Robbie. He leaned into my ear, the Prime Minister of Australia. He said, "Are you Chris Franklin?" I said, "Yeah." He leant right into my ear and said these exact words: "I fucking love that song." Robbie Kearns is sitting there going, "What the fuck's going on here?"
Oh, that's got to be better than the Bob Hawke sculling at the Boxing Day test.
Kevin 07.
Yeah, Kevin 07.
Yeah.
Wow. Some very memorable moments along your journey.
Yeah. Oh, it's been crazy. I'm now mates with Corey Feldman, the Hollywood actor, child actor, from that movie. We stay in contact. A lot of musicians around Australia who I idolised growing up. I've been on tour with them now. I've toured opening for the Screaming Jets, for Rose Tattoo, for the Angels, and I just contact all these people. It's crazy. Yeah. Hugh Jackman came to a show I did in Kununurra, northwest Western Australia. He was filming the movie Australia with Nicole Kidman. Heard we were playing, and I've come off stage and gone backstage, and Hugh Jackman standing there with $20 in his hand and said, "Chris, big fan, I love the song. Can I buy a DVD?" And I've given him a DVD. He said, "Will you sign it for me?" I've gone, "Do you know who the fuck you are? Can you sign 10 of them so I can sell them with your signature on them?"
Signed by Hugh Jackman.
It's just crazy that, the people that I've met over the years. I've done gigs with Tom Green, the crazy American, or Canadian he is. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Go to Western Australia to do shows and just hang out at Kevin Bloody Wilson's house and have a few beers and sing a few songs. And
I mean, I don't know if we've got time for all of your crazy stories, but there must be so many.
I just spin out of it all. I like the Storm stories I've told so far. I'm good mates with a lot of the Storm people. I know all the admin people, the coaching people, the players. If I go to a game, I'm in the dressing rooms after the game with the boys, Yep. And bucket list thing, which I'm working on at the moment, is to sit in the coaching box with Craig Bellamy. I'm going to hopefully do that next comedy festival.
You've got a bucket list.
Oh, it's only got that on it.
Yeah. It's the dregs of the bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. And you know what? It's great to hear that you've got a bucket list.
Well, there's things everyone would like to do.
Yeah. And I feel like you've done so much already. And that you still aspire to do some things. And it's attainable. I think it's attainable. One
thing we missed out on the strength of the Bloke single, we never did a theatre tour. So, like, people knew the song. They didn't know I was a comedian, any of that. And even people knew the song and didn't know my name or my face. There was one time, it was playing on Triple M. I was staying in a flat. There was a construction site near the flat, and I could hear it coming out on the radio. And I pretended to be cranky, and I went out and said, "Can you turn that down?" And I thought they'd go, "Oh, that's the guy," or whatever. And they all just told me to fuck off and shot their nail guns at me. I went, "That didn't go as planned."
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So you missed.
I should have done a theatre tour. I've never played theatres on my own. So
Yeah, but I mean, were theatre tours a thing back then though?
Yeah, they for
were?
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
But
even off the back of a single.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, you'd have an artist that would have an album to.
Yeah. The thing was with EMI with the contract, they said 2 successful singles and we'll do an album, and the second single didn't go that well.
Oh right. What was the second single?
It was there was a TV show prior to Australia's Got Talent and all of those called Pop Stars.
I remember that. And I remember Pop Stars.
The winner of that one year was a girl band called Bardot.
I remember that. I was watching that on telly.
Yeah, well, that was right when Bloke was in the charts, because when they released their single at the end, they say, "Oh, Chris Franklin's still thereabouts as well."
Poison Ivy.
No, it was just called Poison.
Something like that.
So I did a parody of that song called "Beer Is My Poison."
Right, okay.
Yeah, a very expensive clip. We lost a lot of money on that. Oh. There was 5 of me in the clip all at once. Yeah, You can see it on YouTube. Just look for Chris Franklin, "Beer Is My Poison."
Beer Is My Poison.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
it's also on my Spotify album.
Yeah.
Which is called "You Wouldn't Want Me Any Other Way."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's brilliant.
the second single didn't go that well, so therefore the album contract was ripped up.
I mean, yeah. Would you have wanted to do an album?
Well, I have in the end, but just all the songs I've done. But, I really can't sing, so
Yeah.
yeah. The songs needed to be really funny to get anywhere to compensate for the bad voice, basically.
Yeah.
Some are okay, but yeah. Became really good friends with Killing Heidi around that time because
Killing Heidi,
their
yeah.
album
Man,
Reflector was number one when my single was number one. So we travelled and did a lot together. Ella Hooper and her brother
Hooper.
Jess. Yep.
Mate, you're taking me on a time warp back to probably the best years of my life. When I was
Pedro
in,
on
like,
drums
10,
and
11.
Wazza was on bass back then. Yep.
Yeah. Back to my youth. Hello.
Hello. Just getting some photos taken.
You don't want one with me. You want one with him. That's Hugh Jackman.
Don't say that.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a nice trip. Enjoy yourself.
Hugh Jackman.
So, all right, cool.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go
sure.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Have you seen Wolverine?
Don't.
Oh, that's a terrible one. Oh, no way. You got to show that to the camera. Have a look at that. Thank you. Thank you. Look, that's him. Do you know him? He played Wolverine and the other bloke was just in some Australian movie or something. Oh, that's so good. That's classic. That's fantastic. Yeah, so you've had a lot of these cool, wild experiences, and they're all off the back of this single, and it feels like everything's kind of weaved in and unfolded, just kind of pretty naturally.
Yeah,
Has any of
the
it
thing
felt-
is, a lot of doors opened because of the single, but I've only been able to be doing this professionally for 28 years because of the strength of my material as well. You know, the single opened the doors, but they would have shut again if my comedy was shit.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you're doing comedy through this whole time.
Yeah, that 1 hour show, there was only 2 songs in the whole hour. The rest of it was stand up. Apart from 1 year here at Melbourne, I did a 1 hour show of all songs.
Yeah. So you talk about missing the fact that, like, you missed doing stadiums, or what do you call them?
Oh, just theatres, yeah.
You missed doing theatres.
There's
There's
800-seat theatres in large regional centres all over the country that acts like Arndo and Carl Barron and all those guys work at, you know. And I'm now 25 years after the single too scared to book them because I don't know if anyone's going to come along.
Too scared to book them.
Well,
Okay,
you,
so that's
you
what it
pay
is.
a higher fee for the theatre and you pay a percentage of ticket sales to the staff that are there, and you know, if no one turns up, I'm in the shit.
We've got to work out how to make that happen.
Just do one, maybe. I might do one in Launceston, and that way it's just a one-off.
We start a group chat. We get a few of the boys from the work sites to send them to their group chats and their mates. Mate, you know what? Wouldn't even have to print out a flyer, I reckon.
I'm well over giving out flyers.
Yeah.
That is soul destroying.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't even know where to go back to. There's so many tangents I want to go to, and also just talking about the artist thing. Like, you were able to experience something that artists today don't get to really experience,
Which is?
and that is, you know, having a gatekeeper like a record label that decides that they want to vouch for you or invest in you.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas these days, you know, as you can see here in front of us, I've got my podcast equipment here, and we have the access to YouTube, and, you know, anyone can be a YouTuber. And then it's just up to the audience to decide whether
They like you or not,
like
and
you or
spread
not.
the word. Yeah. I had a whole PR machine at EMI that was...
Yep.
I've got a big poster at home they brought out just after Bloke went to number one. No, I thought it was great. It had my head, and it had Chris Franklin Bloke at the top, and at the bottom it said number one with a mullet.
It's a great haircut. I watched the music video the other day, actually, and at the start of the video, there's an introduction that you do to the video where you talk about the cinematographer.
Well, we'd employed an actual film crew to make the video clip, and I had no experience in that whatsoever. And as it says in that introduction, he wanted a storyboard to work out what shots he was going to do. And I just said, mate, we got 10 cartons of piss there. We're going to drink them. You're going to film us. There's your fucking storyboard.
I can imagine that's so hard for a filmmaker to accept.
Yeah.
But the video just turned out so good. You know what I mean?
I was in my manager's parents' backyard in Tuggeranong in Canberra. We'd filmed that.
Canberra. Yeah, that's brilliant. All right. At what point does it simmer down? At what point does it simmer down and you start to feel like you're going back into a regular kind of life? Or does it, I mean, you said just now that it's been a whirlwind ever since.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that maybe there hasn't been that point.
There's always something that happens that spins me out, and it's because of, popularity or whatever. Like the fact that we had to change the recording date of this because someone's reached out and wants me to do something ridiculous tomorrow with Warwick Kappa. So,
yep. Which is great. So you've never really felt at any point like it has simmered down, or there hasn't really...
There was a brief period, probably 3 months after Bloke, when it's starting to its descent down the charts.
Yeah, okay.
And I sort of thought, as a first-time recording artist that went to number one, unlike musicians that have tried all their life, I just went, how fucking easy is this? Let's do it again. Let's bring out another
you got
one.
the Finn brothers looking at you going, this guy. Who else was big?
There's a lot of situations. Like
Silverchair would have been like, fuck.
When it was number one, I was on stage going, there's a lot of actual musicians that haven't got here. It's the same with 2017 Melbourne Storm Premiership.
Yeah.
I'm drinking with the team at 4 a.m. after they've won it. Yeah. Billy Slater and Cameron Smith say to me, Franklin, we need a photo of you with the cup, the trophy. Yeah, I'm holding the thing up above me head at 4 in the morning, shit-faced with the team. And I'm thinking to myself that there's guys that have trained and played since the under-9s that have never got to hold this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah, but you accept it for what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, it's fun at the time. And
And I think, it says a lot about you that people keep inviting you back, that people want you around,
It comes back to what I said earlier, be nice to them on the way up and they'll remember you on the way down.
Yep. And I think everyone I've spoken to can vouch for that. Everyone's like, oh, have you met Chris? I'm like, no, I haven't met Chris yet. Oh, Chris is the best guy. Nicest bloke.
Yeah.
I was like, really? I heard that he wrote that song, Bloke, and I'm thinking about having him on my podcast. He's like, oh, just ask him. Oh, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll do it. I was like, he would do my podcast? They're like, oh, yeah, he's the nicest guy ever.
I said I select the podcasts I do very, very specifically.
Really?
I said I'll only do this if it's in a shitty little laneway.
And it smells like piss.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I don't usually record here. Lars did tell me that you had some specifics. And talk to me about your friendship with Lars then. So you kicked off your friendship maybe 10 years ago or so. How come you two get along so well?
I don't know.
He's Canadian.
Yeah, we're like most comedians, we're both autistic. So, and Canadians to me are Australians with American accents. They're nothing like Americans.
Yeah, right.
They were brought up on British humour like we were. They're a Commonwealth country, They get the Queen and all that, and they get sarcasm.
Yeah.
So they get us as much as we get them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're probably the closest thing to Australians I've met anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
They just speak differently.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks of, yeah. I've seen his set a couple of times, and he tells that funny, I've got one.
Oh, good. What?
You done? I couldn't steal one of those off you, could I?
Of course you can. They're only
Pretty
$4 each these days. No. Yeah. Oh, you got a lighter?
Absolutely. No. Do I have a lighter? I do. Yeah. I mean, he didn't talk much, but he tells that story about the toe thing.
Oh,
And I'm like, I don't know if Australians are
up in the
Canadian
Yukon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Like he said about the toe, guess which countries had to pay the most fines for drinking the toe?
I still don't believe it. I would have thought it was like Japanese or Russians or something.
It is. Yeah. Guess the second most country.
Australia.
No, we're the first.
Second most?
Yeah, that's drunk the toe.
Wouldn't even know.
Try Canadians.
That makes sense. And you were talking about you're about to go on a trip together.
Yeah, we do that after every Melbourne Comedy Festival because he puts so much effort into the tours we do in Canada.
Yeah.
I try and show him a bit of our country as well. So last year after Melbourne, we did a 2-week tour by car from Melbourne all the way up to Cairns, doing shows all the way up the coast.
Yep.
And this year we're going across to Adelaide and then from Adelaide up to Darwin. So we'll get to see Uluru, we'll get to see Cooper Pedy, the underground town, all those little things. Lake Aire's full of water at the moment, so we'll get to have a look at that. And yeah.
Unbelievable. And what does your day-to-day life look like in 2025?
I can give you a quick summary of the year. January, February, March, I'm on the piss doing festivals.
So that just starts in Perth.
Perth, 20th of January. I left home on the 20th of January. I get home on the 23rd of May.
That joke that you do about going to the grand final.
It's pretty much like that. So, yeah, I January, February, March into the start of April is all festivals. Then we do the 2-week tour with Lars. Then through the winter months, the last part of May, June, July, I'll just fly over from Tassie. I'll do on a Saturday. I'll do a country footy club in Victoria somewhere that'll pay a week's wages and fly home on the Sunday and sit on my couch for the week.
Right.
Then after July, we're into August. We go to Canada, do a 6-week tour of Canada. By mid-October, we're normally finished that, although last year my partner Michelle and I did 2 weeks in London on the back of Canada with Tom Stade. This year, Lars and Jen and myself and Michelle, after Canada, we're all going to London.
Yep.
Then we're going to go to Paris and plan it so that we're in Munich for Oktoberfest.
Right.
Just to see what it's like to drink beer.
Well, and that's in September, isn't it?
That's October. That's why it's called Oktoberfest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, it made sense. Someone told me it kicked off in September or something.
I don't know.
Must have been.
Yeah, from there we get back here for November, December, which is corporate Christmas season. And then we're back into the festivals again in January.
Oh, it's non-stop.
You've got to have the year planned out. I've got bills to pay, so yeah.
That's your year, every year, rinse and repeat?
Yeah, pretty much.
Unbelievable.
The hard part's the first 3 months. I'm away from the missus for a quarter of the year, but she's away from me too. So, she comes to Melbourne. She came this year for 5 days. She'll normally get a weekend in Adelaide and a weekend in Perth, but she was unwell this year, so we had a couple of months where we didn't see each other. But we talk every day on the phone and we get through it. I'm 60, she's mid-50s, We're old enough to know we're not playing around or messing around. There's a lot of trust and a lot of love there. So, yeah, we're fine with it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And she's okay with you going to the grand final and coming back 3 months later.
Yeah, she actually enjoys it. Bit of peace and quiet.
Oh, that's great. And she gets to experience, part of the tour with you.
Yeah. And she always comes on the international ones. When we first met, I was touring Tasmania and Michelle lived down there. She'd pretty well never left Tasmania. So in the 10 years we've been together, she's now been to every capital city in the country and chooses which ones she goes to. We've got grandkids in Queensland and Western Australia and one in Tassie. So the Queensland shows or the WA shows she'll try and come to. So just to catch up with the grandkids more than anything. My kids in those 2 states. Michelle's 2 kids are in Tassie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's all one blended family like most people are these days.
So you got kids?
I've got 4 adult children and 10 grandchildren.
Well, was it before Bloke or after?
Well before, yeah.
Right, okay.
My youngest was 13 when Bloke came out.
So they got to experience this whole thing.
Yeah. I wasn't with their mothers then, but I still saw the kids. I remember one time Melbourne Casino, back when it had a Planet Hollywood in there. I had my 13-year-old daughter there having a milkshake at Planet Hollywood, and this lady came up and got a photo with me and all this sort of thing just after Bloke. And she went to my daughter, must be great having a famous dad. And my daughter, she was 8 at the time, she said, "Oh, he's just me dad." I said, "No big deal."
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Oh, that's great. But that's great for them to have seen, I guess all of that.
Yeah.
And be part of that.
Yeah.
When they were old enough to sort of
And they're of a generation where pretty well everything I've done's online, so they can always see something, and they've got a record to show their kids that this is what Poppy did. An interesting one in Perth this year. I was performing at a pub crawl. I wasn't hosting it. I was just one of the acts. I go out on stage. I look down, and my 18-year-old grandson is sitting in the front row with his girlfriend and his mate.
Did you know he was going to be there?
No
idea.
I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, I've always heard about what you do, Pop, but I've never seen it because I've never been allowed in the pub, so I thought I'd come and have a look.
That's so good. That's like a dream come true for a lot of blokes.
I've never felt older in my life.
Yeah.
My grandson was drinking in a bar with me.
What a trip. This is wild. Just to taking all this in. Just for a, average punter, just to hear all this. It's like, wow, this can really happen.
Yeah.
Like your life can just change overnight.
Yeah, for sure.
And
perpetually. Mine could have been so much bigger too. You see the millionaire comedians, Hughesy and until he got the sack recently, what's his name, Marty Sheargold and Lawrence Mooney all had, $1 million radio contracts.
Yep.
I could have gone there had we followed up on the Bloke single more professionally, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, we just rode the wave of the fun that was having a number one without sort of working to use that to go further.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Yeah, because it feels like there's different paths, like, different crossroads at different points.
Yeah.
And so do you remember, like, any moments where you maybe had, maybe the head of EMI or people encouraging you to increase the professionalism of your touring?
No one ever did that. No.
Okay.
Tony Hullo believed in me a lot. I had many a chat with him. To me, it was just the guy that made the single happen, but he was the head of EMI Australia.
Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, he never influenced or tried to influence what I did.
Yeah.
In my show or whatever. He was just he was a talent guy basically.
Yeah, right.
A money man. I see this song. I think it's going to work. Let's invest in it.
Let's
and so
do it.
yeah.
Let's do it. And for them, obviously they're used to spotting natural talent. And I can imagine being someone in their shoes, you just trust that the genius that you've seen on stage will continue to produce genius.
Yeah.
And do it on their own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting that, because I would have thought that there'd be people trying to encourage, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Like, let's take it here. Let's do that. Let's go there.
My management and I discussed things, but it was never, you should do this. It was, what do you think we should do now? And we'd work it out as a team, and we made some wrong choices.
All right.
But wrong choices in terms of what could have been a higher profile and more financial gain. But in terms of shows, I'm my persona and who I am, I'm more than happy just playing in pubs. It would have been nice to do a theatre tour, but I'm very comfortable in a bar.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It does suit you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, just trying to articulate a thought now.
Thought I could hear a funny noise.
Yeah. It's like, it sounds like one of those old fax machines when I'm thinking. The modems.
Yeah. Dial-up modems.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. I guess, that's really, for me, it's just having this podcast, for example. People always getting in my ear, you should do this, you should do that, you should take it here, you should do, it's non-stop.
Have you tried doing different locations?
Yeah, I have. But I haven't done it with the camera. Yeah, I did try doing one location. The footbridge up near Flinders Street Station?
The footbridge, right?
Yeah, so Flinders Street Station, there's Arbury Bar and Arbury Afloat, and then there's a footbridge that goes across to the other side of South Bank.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know that one, and sometimes they write Christmas on it, but
Yep.
you're not here that time of year. Maybe you are. And I recorded one there with this French girl who has her own podcast.
Right.
I met her here one day. I was like, yeah, let's do a podcast together on the footbridge. There's a nice little flat landing there that's out of the way of most of the foot traffic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it started pissing down rain. Like you wouldn't believe it.
This would be good if it was raining.
It was.
We'd be closer to the wall, but it would be good.
Well, yeah. I mean, my first one that I did here with the video was with Caleb Highland, local stand-up
I know
comic.
Caleb. He did the Problem Child show this year. Yeah, very clever marketing too. He put his posters up in ACDC
Bon
land.
Scott, you've got the tattoo.
Yeah, I have right there in memory of Bon Scott.
There you go. I just put my phone out and said, "Oh, it's on 80% battery. I probably won't last." It lasted the whole thing,
Yeah, great.
and so I was like, "I suppose it's meant to be." Right? But it was raining that day, and we had these people walking by with colourful umbrellas,
Yeah, right.
and we were sheltered from the rain. And I thought, well, this is a safe spot because you know Melbourne weather.
Yeah.
You know, like it could piss down any moment now.
Don't say if you don't like Melbourne's weather, wait a minute.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I haven't tried too many other places. There's a mate of mine who has a boat down on the Yarra as well. This little old wooden boat with a back balcony.
Oh, yeah.
I've recorded one there.
Nice.
But I actually do want to do just me and maybe 3 guys one day. Get Hamish to drive his boat up and down the Yarra.
Yeah,
and
nice.
actually record one
Nice.
there. I don't know when I'm going to make that happen, but if you're in town,
Sounds good.
Lars.
Chris, like I said,
Lars, Lui,
Lars won't be in town till this time next year.
and someone else. I'll make it happen.
You're going to need another arm
Couple
off
of
you.
mics. Yeah. But yeah, that'd be a trip. No, I haven't tried anything. This is still really new.
Yeah, cool. 78.
Yeah, it's still really new, and I only started recording here since episode 35.
Right.
So, but now I'm just pounding them out, and you know, there's a part of me that feels like I'm responsible as the artist, I suppose, that's putting this production together to be prolific, to go, all right, come back and do another one, another one, do more. You feel
To
that
be
pressure.
fair, I was a bit intimidated thinking we're just going to be out here with people walking past or whatever, but I just feel like we're in a studio doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just focusing on you and the purple wall behind it.
Well, that's it. You know, the beauty of it is that we turn the mics on, we put the headphones on, and you and I are just talking to each other, and there's all this stuff happening around us.
I just realised the street art behind you says the Lui Diaz Podcast.
No. Well, and that same guy wrote Melb, Temps, Love Hearts there.
Nice.
And he wrote it up there too. So he's a guest that I had. Actually, the story, his name's Peter Somadelis. The story of Peter is that I was recording with Sweeney Young and William Wong here one day. And actually, William was first. And while I'm recording with William, Peter was standing over there. He comes over and goes, "Mate, I want to do your podcast."
Great.
I was like, "Yeah, that's good. But I schedule these, and, you know, I've got this guy on and I've got another guy on. So, you know, we're going to have to schedule it." And he goes, no, wait. He stood there for 4 hours,
Right.
waiting for me to finish these episodes, and then we went down, recorded in front of some of his art, and he has been like the most viewed episodes so far,
Yeah, great.
like well above and beyond other episodes. So I really believe in that kind of serendipity of like, do the art, things will unfold.
Yep, for sure. I've decided. You got any more beers in there?
Yeah,
I'm going to have one.
Well, like you said, it is nighttime somewhere,
Yeah.
and
Well, the light came on over there, so.
one sec, there we go.
You should look inside those lids too. I'm inside one of those.
All right. Which crocs are more dangerous, freshies or salties?
Salties.
Got it. How many balls did Adam Gilchrist score a century off in the 2007 World Cup final?
Was it 37?
That was his 72.
Okay. Well, there's one of those that say 2 songs in Australia went to #1 that mentioned VB. One was I Was Only 19 by Redgum, and the other is Bloke by Chris Franklin.
You've made it onto a VB lid.
Yeah. Normally the VB's inside me. Now I'm inside it. Serendipity.
Is there anything? Adam Gilchrist. So you're about it to VB. You're as famous as a saltwater crocodile and Adam Gilchrist.
VB look after me a bit. They can't be seen to publicly support me because my show does not promote responsible service of alcohol, and you know that they are a responsible brewer. But they anytime they bring out a new product, it might be a pair of Globe basketball shoes in VB colours with a VB stamp on them or whatever. They'll send me out a pair to make sure I think they're pretty cool before they go anywhere else.
And you get them 6 months later when you finally get home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have actually got it home. This is interesting. Quentin Tarantino, when he made the movie The Hateful Eight, came out to Australia to promote it. Prior to that, at a trip to Australia promoting a previous film, someone said, why do you come out here to promote them? He said, I love Australia. And they said, what do you love about Australia? And he said, VB. So when he came out for the Hateful Eight, VB turned up at the press conference with a 6-pack of cans that had Quentin Tarantino written where the Victoria Bitter normally is written on the cans. And they called them the Tarantinis.
Oh, Tarantinis.
They're the only 6 that I know of, but there was a 7th that was the prototype, and they gave that to me. So I've got, me and Quentin Tarantino are the only ones with the Tarantinis. I've got that in a safe at home.
Unbelievable. In a safe. It belongs in a safe.
Yeah. Mm.
That's unbelievable. I did see something that you were attempting to get VB to sponsor you or something at one point.
No, people often suggest it, but I've spoken to them lots of times, and we chat on Facebook, ironically. But yeah, I understand completely why they can't. I love their product, and I'll endorse it everywhere. Yeah.
You got the tattoo.
Yeah.
How fresh is that? That looks fresh.
That was Perth late last year.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a podcast, a young Perth comedian who was also a tattoo artist called Nikki Justice. Right. She's got a podcast called This Might Tickle, where she tattoos comedians and interviews them at the same time.
That's unbelievable.
She said, get something you love because it'll be there for life. And I was thinking, oh, the grandkids' names, or nah, VB can.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, mate. Oh, I'm pretty awestruck at the moment, to be honest. I don't know where to take this. You know what it is? Because all your stories, they're all from such different random parts in your life.
Yeah.
And that you just keep pulling them out.
We can go back to the Navy. I was one of 7 chefs chosen in Australia to cook for Queen Elizabeth when she came out here.
Well, I did read that.
Yeah. That was just because I was working the wardroom at the Navy base that she went to, and there were 7 chefs in there that worked the wardroom. That's the officers' mess.
Yeah.
So obviously she's going to eat at the best place.
The late Queen Elizabeth. So what did they say? I mean, was there...
We almost killed her. True story. We had to cook the meal for the Premier of Victoria at the time, who was John Cain. Then we had to cook it for the Prime Minister of Australia, who was I can't remember who it was. It might have been
pre-Bob Hawke.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was.
I don't know who it was before Bob Hawke.
Then we had to cook it for the Governor General, Queen's representative, who was Sir Zelman Cohen.
Right.
And they all approved the menu, and so we cooked it for the Queen, and 70% of the menu was seafood, and Elizabeth Windsor was allergic to seafood.
Kidding, and they didn't know that.
No. They kept it fairly quiet so that it wasn't public knowledge in case someone tried to kill her that way. So,
right.
Yeah, but she had a very nice salad that day.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Okay. No, it's nuts. I'm kind of curious to learn a little bit. Oh, I've got a stubby holder in the back, Skyrocket.
I've always got one.
Stolen from...
Paynham RSL. And ironically, that's in South Australia. I'm doing a show there next Sunday.
Nice. My favourite stubby holder says Paris, Rome, New York, St Kilda.
Yeah.
Or something like that. That's a good one. Okay, cool. I'm trying to weave a narrative into all of this, and I don't know if I'm doing such a good job. But I suppose, we've gone all the way back to Bloke, what happened thereafter, and your continuous stand-up comedy career.
That's all it's been for the years after Bloke, is just continual touring.
So it started with stand-up, then you kind of had this whirlwind situation with Bloke, and then it's maintained by stand-up all the way through.
Yeah, basically. Mm-hmm.
So you fell in love with the art form and you've just never given it up.
I think I loved it long before I realised I did.
Yeah.
When I was a child growing up, Dad was in the Navy and then the Merchant Navy. When he was in the Merchant
What's
Navy...
the Merchant Navy?
It's shipping containers. Civilian, those cargo ships.
Right.
So the Navy is the military,
Yep.
and then there's also the ships that send and supply cars, and you see those big ships with large shipping containers on them everywhere.
Yep.
That's the Merchant Navy.
Right.
So civilian. When he was in the Merchant Navy, he was away for a month and home for a month. And during the time he was away, Mum would let me stay up late at night on a school night and watch Monty Python's Flying Circus and all these comedy shows. And then when Dad was home, we'd be down in the back shed listening to the bawdy Col Elliott CDs or cassettes they were back then. So yeah, I had influence of comedy from both my parents without even realising it.
Yeah, that's wild.
Old TV shows like English comedians, Irish comedians like Des O'Connor and Dave Allen and all those guys had TV specials that I'd watch. And my parents would take me to see them at Festival Hall as a kid. Yeah, see them live, these guys that I'd seen on TV.
So you had comedy in your upbringing?
Yeah, all the way through without even realising it.
You just didn't realise it?
Mm.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can kind of relate to that. Even though I'm not doing stand-up, I can kind of relate to it because I started going to some of the local shows, open mics last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't been to an open mic for like ever. And I'd only ever been to the Comics Lounge once, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, right. I was one of the original owners of the Comics Lounge.
Wow.
Someone's got a subwoofer going somewhere.
Yeah, that won't come through, but yeah, we can hear that. And I just didn't realise how much comedy's been involved in my upbringing.
Yeah, right. Mm. I didn't realise it until I started doing comedy, and I thought back, why do I enjoy this so much?
Yes.
And then remembered everything in my childhood.
Yes. Yeah, I've literally just gone through that phase.
Yeah, right.
Where we're going to these shows and meeting these guys and having them on my podcast. I'm like, of course this makes sense.
Yeah.
I came from Venezuela in 1989 and I couldn't speak a word of English. And
Right.
I just remember living in Dandenong.
You still can't. It's Australian speaking now.
I remember living in Dandenong and we would we'd throw on ABC or something and Michael Crawford, was it? Some Mothers Do Have Them.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bean was
on.
on.
All those old English things. We all grew up on them. But for me, it was the Kenny Everett show, the Benny Hill show, all those. And we'll get back to the Canadians being similar. They had all those shows in that time as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that British humour. There was another show where they were in like a department store. I can't remember.
Are You Being Served?
Yeah. Are You Being Served?
I am free.
And then Black Books as well, which came later on.
Bill Bailey. I did a show with him in Sydney many years ago, right when I was starting out. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible talent, musical genius.
Yeah. And it's given me such an appreciation for the art form of comedy, knowing now retrospectively how much it was there for me during my upbringing.
Yeah,
and
right.
how much a formative part it was of me assimilating into this country. Even though we're talking about British comedy, that bled into on a Saturday night we were watching Hey Hey all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Mm.
And
it was a huge thing for me, Hey Hey, as a child. And I'm old enough to remember when it was a Saturday morning cartoon show. Watched it evolve into an evening show.
Oh, that's right. It did.
Yeah, and then seeing legends like Russell Gilbert and Wilbur Wilde, the sax player, all those on there.
Yes.
And they're both friends of mine now, It's extremely weird.
How's Russ doing?
Not real well at the moment, but lovely man, and sending your love, Russ.
Oh, yeah, same. Yeah, beautiful man. And look, actually, that reminds me, one of the things that I did want to sort of credit you for is the way that you close your shows out every night. And I do mispronounce her name, unfortunately.
Eurydice Dixon.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of, I have a lot of respect for the way that you do that because doesn't take a lot of effort for you to do that.
No, it's a sentence, and it is important to me. I've done it every show since Eurydice passed away.
Yep. When was that? Was that 2001 or
no, a little bit later. It's only about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. But
2020, 21, 20, something like that.
Yeah, and as I say at the end of the show, I didn't know her well, but I did know her, and she was a unique act. It was tragic what happened to her, and if me saying that at the end of the show prevents it from happening to someone else, then
Well, I think it does. I think it just makes what happens is everyone in the audience does take a moment. It's like you said before, it's a rowdy audience, right?
Yeah.
It's a very rowdy audience, but you manage to quieten the room for that one moment. It's like people still have an immense amount of respect for.
When the incident happened, the amount of people that turned out in that park where she was murdered, or at her funeral, people that didn't know her, but just what that event stood for and meant to them, and Melbourne had enough.
Yeah.
So for me, all these years later, making sure people remember her name, they'll remember that incident.
Yep.
And, it's just a little thing
Yeah, that's really, I really love that you've taken the responsibility to send that message.
We've got a platform whenever we're on stage.
Yep.
Use it.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And so,
I always say at the comedy shows, it's okay to have fun, but let's not remember why we're here. And let's just remember why we're here.
Yeah. I love that. I really do. And so, the appreciation for the art form of comedy is a common theme that I think I share with you for sure. That makes me feel like I can really relate to that side of your story. But, I feel like comedy, like the world's changed. I was reading a little bit of the write-up that the AI tool came up with.
Mm-hmm.
And it said something about Australians potentially not necessarily being able to relate to Bloke and that sort of style of comedy anymore. There was part of me that felt like, all right, times have changed.
Oh, definitely.
But times haven't changed you.
They've changed what I say on stage a bit.
Okay.
I may still seem rough and knocker, but I'm very cautious of the way I use my words now.
Right.
Just because of the woke movement and the last thing I'd want to do is upset anyone.
Yeah.
To who I am. So the monologue I used to do before singing the Bloke song in 2000 was extremely chauvinistic and sexist.
Right.
But it was said tongue in cheek, and it got a good laugh. But I know if I use those same words now, Karen's going to get offended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Mm.
Everyone knows Karen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's really interesting because I'm curious to understand where you think we are in the state of play with the art form of comedy.
I believe, me personally, I don't care what restrictions they put on you. If you've got good morals, you'll play by the rules of the current time. And if you're funny enough, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You'll find a way to be funny and stay within the boundaries.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's definitely an interesting time for comedy and comedians where it's never been, I don't know if there's been a time in my history, like my time on earth, where there's been so much friction.
Oh, yeah.
And to see someone like you that's thriving through it,
I still have one part that is sort of old school me, but I get away with it with
What
a
is
cheeky smile. I say on stage what I'd like to do now is, and I'd pause for a minute and go, well, fuck Kylie Minogue, but she's not here. That gets a laugh, but people don't like you talking like that.
Well,
anymore.
actually, behind this door.
Surprise. I follow that up with I'd have a mad go at her.
How old's Kylie now?
She's my age, or she's mid-50s. Yeah. But I follow it up with I'd have a mad go at her, which is terminology that's not in the woke vocabulary. So, but I get away with it with a cheeky smile.
Yep.
And that's the only part that's probably the most controversial part of my show now, and I don't always do it.
So you've just taken it as a challenge to alter your material.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if you know how comedy works, it's quite easy to do.
Yeah.
And from being in a front bar saying fuck every second word to a corporate gig and not swearing at all, that you've got to adapt anyway.
You don't swear at the corporate gigs?
Most of them don't like you to.
Okay.
Yeah, I really struggle with it. I look like I can't finish my sentences. But, we primarily, unless they're paying really well, my manager will say the only corporates I do will be blue-collar Christmas parties, like an electrician company Christmas party or something like that, where I can still swear. It's never the sit-down 3-course meal for a big corporation or any of that.
So you have management.
Oh, I've had management right from the start. Just before winning Raw in '98, there was another competition between Sydney and Melbourne comics held in Canberra called Green Faces.
All right.
The guy that ran that, Artie Lang, had A-list entertainment. He managed Carl Barron at the time, and still manages Carl, but he only managed Carl at the time. I was a finalist in his Green Faces competition in that same year that I won Raw. when I won Raw, I had offers for TV commercials and things, and I thought I need management. So I went and had a chat to Artie, and he's been my manager ever since then. On a handshake, no contract, no anything.
Unbelievable. That's great.
I was talking to him today, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I was the second act he had, and since then he's taken on a whole stable. Arndo's managed by him, Paul McDermott's managed by him, Bev Kellick's managed by him. There's Lawrence Mooney. All the ones that have been sacked by Triple M, Marty Sheargold. Yeah.
Why did they get sacked by Triple M? Why are they getting sacked?
Marty was controversial talking about women's sport.
Right.
Yeah. And they just, that was one time too many. I don't really know what happened with Lawrence, but yeah.
There's a lot to protect when you get to that echelon of media, isn't there?
I actually rang Marty up and said, can you give me a character reference? And he said, what for? I said, I'm going for your job.
That wasn't serious though, was it? You were just
just stirring him up. With as I pointed out how my years planned out, I could not lock myself down to a city and a radio job, you know? Yeah. And not having had one up until the age of 60, or not a proper full-time one. I've done radio quite a bit, but not any major national network or anything. So, I wouldn't get a big contract for my first time, so it wouldn't be worth me giving up the year of stand-up just to be getting up at 4 a.m. and doing breakfast radio.
That makes sense. And look, you've been able to craft yourself a pretty decent lifestyle.
Yeah. I know myself too well too. If I had to get up at 4 a.m. for breakfast radio, I'd be pulling all-nighters and turning up drunk every day.
Yeah.
Which would make for a very funny radio show.
It would. I don't know how long it would last.
No, that's
Remember the whole Mick Malloy thing, the Mick Malloy show?
Yeah.
That was wild. Because I was a kid and I didn't know that TV shows could just get pulled like that.
Yeah.
I was only 15 or something, 13.
Halfway through the first episode, Kerry Packer rang up and said, get this shit off my television. But Mick is a lovely bloke too, and he's a stayer and a perseverer, and now he's got a great show with Sam Pang and doing the front bar.
And he did that movie at the St Kilda Sports Club as well after that. And so
Cracker Jack, he's made been in a lot of movies.
Cracker Jack, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does say something about the resilience of comedians.
Yeah.
You know, try and fail. You know, try, succeed, mess up, try again, keep moving.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I do work with a lot of corporate people, and it just seems that when something ends, you know, their whole world is rattled.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's something about the world of stand-up comedians that they just know that that's part of the gig.
Yeah, we'll just move on to the next phase.
Move on to the next gig. You were talking about your bucket list before with the one item.
You were talking about my bucket list.
With the one item in it. But I'm
the other thing in my bucket list is I've got to get a bucket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you only got one item in there, and that's to sit in the coach's box with Bellamy.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be great. I'll make sure I watch that game.
Yeah. On grand final day.
Yeah. Oh, they'll make the grand final this year, you reckon?
I hope so, yeah. Still sitting second.
Yeah.
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 The Bulldogs are looking good this year. The Panthers have won it the last 3 years.
The Panthers have been unbelievable.
Not this year. They've struggled.
Yeah. What is it, Cleary?
I don't know what's happening there. Yeah. They're the only team that hasn't won a game on Australian soil.
Are you kidding?
They won their first game in LA and haven't won a game here since.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, they've done three's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Three's enough.
Yeah.
Give someone else a go.
I was certain we'd be playing them again this grand final, but I was certain also if we did that we'd have unlocked the way to beat them.
You reckon?
Well, we were close last year. We beat them both times in the home and away season. They just got the better of us in the grand final.
Why is that? What happens to...
It's always on the day, mate.
It's the big...
Yeah. That's why I'm a fan. I follow the ice hockey from going to Canada so many times.
Who's your team?
Edmonton Oilers, because I based myself in Edmonton where Lars is.
The Oilers.
It's playoff season now.
It is.
Yeah, and we're into we played our first game of the first round yesterday and got beaten by LA Kings 6-5. But we were losing 4-0, so it was a good comeback.
Nice.
We got back to 5-5 before they got that final goal.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we're out. It's a best of 5 series, you know?
Yeah. But you were saying that
No, best of 7.
Is that what you love about sport? Is that what you were saying? Is that what you love about sport or something? Or
It's what I love about their way of doing it.
right?
It's not just the best team on the day over 7 games.
Oh, over 7 games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't do that with an AFL game though.
You'd need a week off in between where these guys play every second or third day,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
Yeah.
I
In the
mean,
playoffs, they play every second
12-minute
day.
quarters, lots of
No,
fun.
that they play thirds, and they're 20-minute thirds.
Oh, right.
But they go for about an hour. Yeah. With all the stoppages.
Have you ever been to see an ice hockey game up
Lots of them, yeah.
there? What's that like?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. You just saw my face light up there,
Yeah,
did you?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I was in Norway, and a friend of mine who lives there, I was staying with her for 3 weeks, and she was in and out, but then she comes back home one day, and she was like, oh, I'm taking you to an ice hockey game. So it was 2 local Oslo teams playing each other. And we had a VIP box and everything, and there they are just smashing into each other. I was
Yeah.
like, this is so good. It was my first time overseas, so...
It's the only sport I know where they've got battens, they've got blades, they've got a puck that's as hard as anything firing at them at 90 k's an hour, you know?
It's a tough sport. Yeah. But I was curious...
And they've got fists, gloves and fists, you know? Yeah. You punch on, you're just sent off for 2 minutes. There's no report or anything.
Well, it's wild that sport, the referees just will stand around and watch the fist fight.
Yeah,
like it's part of the game.
Yeah, the commentators go from hockey commentators to boxing commentators.
Yeah.
He's thrown a left, he's thrown a right.
Yeah, I never want that to change. Yeah, we were talking about how times have changed, but it feels like ice hockey. They're like, no, we ain't changing.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm curious to know like what else is, on the list of things to do before you leave this earth.
Oh, nothing else. Had kids, I've had grandkids, I've had success, I've had failures. I'm happy in life with my partner now, and the way I live my life, it could be another hour before I go. So, it might be as close as that. Might be another 20 years. I don't know.
I love that. I love
But,
that.
if I go in an hour, I'm happy. I've done everything. Yeah.
Yep. That's a real success story.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people out there that I know and meet who are chasing something. I, personally, I'm not satisfied, for example. So, like, I listen to you and I'm like, imagine getting to that point.
People, younger comics always ask, how do you get famous? Or I always say to them, I never set any goals. I never planned to have a single. I never planned to be a headliner. I never planned to do comedy full time. If you don't set goals, you won't get disappointed. And anything that does happen is a bonus.
The Chris Franklin self-help book.
I can't even help myself, so how am I going to help someone else?
I tell you, we should do a parody of Tony. What's his name? David Goggins. We could do a Goggins parody. Yeah, he's like, get up at 5 a.m., do an ultra marathon before you start work. You're like, don't set any goals. Have a tinny.
Don't go to a gym unless it's got a bar in it.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. You didn't set any goals, and for some people listening to this, it's like you managed to cheat your way to success.
Yeah, just stumbled through life.
Yep.
But had none of that happened, I wouldn't have been disappointed because I wasn't expecting it to happen.
Do you feel like you're like we're sitting in front of you just chatting? This is the first time you and I have actually just had a man-to-man kind of chat. Do you feel like that you're just present, that you're here and now? Because I feel that about you.
Yeah.
I feel like you're very present.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've sort of come to read a lot about and learn about, how to push through failure, how to reach for success. A lot of it is just being present. A lot of it is just like being in the moment, staying in the moment.
Go with the flow. You can ask anyone, including my partner, it takes a lot to upset me.
Yeah,
if something goes wrong.
I was going to ask,
yeah.
Do you ever worry about anything?
No.
Yeah.
If something's gone wrong, you just go, oh, well, basically. Yeah, move on.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's what's different.
When I do get upset, though, that's the whole...
That's not something you want to see.
No, that's not good.
Give me some insight into something that might upset you.
I can't think of anything these days. I'm just, chilled.
So not even the Storm losing the grand final?
I'll be upset. last year, Edmonton Oilers got to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
So that means that they've won 3 games and their opposition's won 3 games.
Yeah, and it's the cup final.
Yeah,
like
so that's
the
it.
last round.
That's it.
Whoever wins
That's
that
the grand
7th
final.
game, whoever wins that 7th game gets it. And they lost it. They were losing 3-0, like as in 3 games to 0, and then won the next 3 games to come back. So we all got very confident that they were going to get there, and they lost the last one. That was against Florida Panthers. But I was upset for about half an hour. Yeah,
Fucking lost to a Palm Beach team.
yeah.
Jesus, pardon my French.
So yeah, I was upset for about half an hour and kept it internal. Yeah.
You think you kept it internal, but all your mates will testify that the steam was rising out of your ears.
No. I was at home with Michelle, and she didn't even know the game was on. So that's how I kept it. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And so, okay, so from here, the next move is back to Tassie just for a little bit, or no?
Two week tour with Lars
2-week tour with Lars.
up to Darwin. From there, I'm heading across for a week of gigs in Brisbane. The only reason I booked that in is because the week after that is my son's Bucks party in on the Sunshine Coast. So
Nice.
I'll be there for that.
Whereabouts?
On the Sunshine Coast is all I know.
Oh,
They've got an Airbnb and a few things organised, basically.
Nice. I love
I'm
the
not
Sunny
disclosing too much in case my son's listening and he doesn't know what's going on for his Bucks party.
fair enough.
So,
This is
well
2 months
past
away.
it. Yeah, right. Okay.
Good.
Well, we had a great time at the Bucks party.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, so, and after that, I'll get home on the 23rd of May, after leaving home on the 20th of January.
Right. Yeah, that's nuts.
Mm.
That's nuts. Just listening to you talk today, I thought that was just a joke. I thought to go into the grand final thing, coming home a few months later was just a joke. But that's your life.
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I say to Michelle, see you, doll, I'm going to work. I'll see you when I get home. And that'll be 4 or 5 months later.
That's like a fly-in, fly-out mining.
Yeah, even they get home more often than I do.
What do you think?
But when I am home, like I'll be 4 months out of home this time, so a third of the year. I'll be home for 2 days and Michelle will say, when are you going again? That's just how it is. We miss each other terribly while we're away, but if I've been home for 2 days and she's reminded of all the shit habits I've got, she'll be waiting for me to go again.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah. Oh, fuck, what was I going to ask? Completely forgot what I was going to ask.
Oh, well, we'll edit that out.
It doesn't matter. I don't need it. Far out. What was it? Damn.
Wasn't important.
It wasn't. That's what I was going to ask.
What were you going to ask?
I'm going back to the couch.
Right.
Or the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And wondering what was... If was it Chris? Who was that guy from Hey Hey? What was his name?
Chris Bennett.
Chris Bennett.
Oh, he wasn't from Hey Hey.
He
I'd
wasn't
been
from
on
Hey
there doing stand-up.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. He'd been on there. If he never showed up that day,
If he wasn't at that bar, I probably wouldn't be doing stand-up comedy.
what do you think? What was your next move in your own head?
I'll
Were you
find a job as a chef somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You the next Gordon Ramsay, Australia's Gordon
No,
Ramsay.
I was never like that. I got a job around that same time, working in, what's that little lane opposite Flinders Street Station that's got all the cafes in it?
That is called the Graves Street.
The Grave Street, yeah. A little cafe in there. I got a job cooking in one of those places.
Right.
I was actually cooking there when I won Raw.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, the Herald Sun back then the Sun came out in the afternoon. The Sun came out in the morning, and the Herald came out in the afternoon.
Right.
They were two different papers. The Herald was a broadsheet.
Right.
And a photographer from the Herald and a reporter came around to the cafe to interview me. I had no idea, and I'm cooking lunches for everyone, and they go, we want to do an interview, and the owner's going, what the fuck's going on here? Oh, I just got famous. I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah. So that was it. You were going to be a chef. That was it.
Yeah.
I seen you cooking snags. I was watching an episode of
Bloke's
Bloke's World.
Yeah.
You're not bad at cooking snags, I tell you.
Yeah, if only the Queen wanted snags that day.
Barramundi snags.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. So that's what it would have been. It would have been a chef.
Yeah.
Because you know why I asked that? Because it might seem obvious. Someone's probably sitting here thinking, "Oh, Louis, you said he was a chef," but I didn't know whether quitting the Navy was quitting being a chef as well.
No, that was the start of being a chef. I was only a cook in the Navy. That's all they call you in there.
Right.
But if you've served more than 4 years, that's the equivalent of an apprenticeship. You get your trade certificates when you get out. So you've served your apprenticeship if you've served more than 4 years.
Yeah.
So I was a qualified chef when I got out and started travelling around the country working as a chef in pubs and restaurants and whatever.
So you did your apprenticeship in the Navy.
Pretty much, yeah. Mm.
Okay, and then what a different world that is.
It was different because a 4.5 month cook's course in the Navy was enough to prepare you to go to sea cooking.
Yeah.
And in that 4.5 months, you didn't just learn cooking, you learned cooking, butchery and bakery because you had to do all those sort of things at sea. You had to bake your own bread when you're at sea because there's not a bread delivery or a baker shop at sea.
Yeah.
We had all the meat.
You're cooking everything.
All the meat to store better on the ships has come as a whole animal, and you cut it up. So
Are you kidding?
so you learn all those things.
What, live?
No.
There's
There's a freezer full of
There's a Noah's Ark on the naval ship. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, right, cool. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, wow. What a trip, man.
So it
What
was
journey.
a whirlwind course of 4.5 months, but you had to have served in the Navy doing those jobs for 4 years, which is the equivalent of a civilian apprenticeship.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just laughing because this just feels like such a no. What is that? Is that Australia? Is that the great Australian dream?
What's that?
To have a life like what you've had?
Had?
Well, are having,
Yeah.
or you know, the
I
past
don't
and
know.
the present.
I don't know. It
Or
was
is it
never.
like a bit more American? Maybe it's a bit more American. You know,
If it was American, I'd still be hoping I was a millionaire.
yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like the land of opportunity kind of thing. What is it?
I think-
the battler lifestyle.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of what I'm getting.
Battler come good. Yeah, happy
Battler
with that.
come
But it was never my dream because, as I said, I'd never set any goals.
Yeah. Battler come good.
Set one goal. I want to be in the coach's box with Craig Bellamy.
Yeah. Well, that's very achievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like that's very achievable. By the way, while this van comes past,
This is fantastic. I'm just watching down there. There's a fella from the subcontinent, tourist, just wanted to get a photo. It looked like 3 street kids with face tattoos and everything. And they all just went, yeah, that's great, and grabbed their mates in and everything. So that's just accommodating and helping out these guys. That was great.
Yeah.
Good on you, boys.
Fellas, how are you? What are we talking about? Well, we're talking.
Just- Yeah, mate.
Thanks, brother.
We are.
Just doing a podcast about comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy's funny because it's funny.
Good on you, boys.
Have a good one. There we go. Yeah, this is an interesting laneway because the living room, which is a drug
just here, yeah.
just here, and then obviously you've got Movida next door and Culture Kings.
Yeah,
so
right.
It brings like, you know, hip hop culture, street sort of drug and alcohol culture, and affluent diners all to the same laneway.
Yeah.
That's-
Plus the street artists.
Yeah, plus the street art. Oh, let's not even mention them.
Have they been here?
Yeah. And that dog in the kennel's finished, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but she's done that.
Nice.
So that's all happened while we've been recording. Is there an opportunity maybe to pick your brain around some of the acts that you've seen maybe this festival that you felt like have stood out to you? Or
There's one that comes to mind immediately. And he started as the show I do is 6 open micers and 4 pros.
okay, that's at the X Fest.
Yeah, the after party.
Yeah.
This guy started out a few years back as one of the 6 open micers, and over the years, up until this year, he's become one of the 4 that I invite.
Right.
And he kicked ass the 3 times that I got him up there this year. His name's Alessio Carducci.
Ah, Alessio.
Mm.
Was it? I think it was the Tuesday night. The Sunday night. He absolutely murdered.
That's something special for me with that show when I see these kids work their way up and watch them progress over the years. Here's someone you might know who started out as one of the 6, ended up winning a Logie for Best Newcomer. It was Dilruk Jayasinghe.
You're kidding. And he was there on Tuesday night.
Yeah, he was an open micer just jumping up when I first started doing that.
He's amazing.
Yep.
He was funny. The only time I've seen him was at the Storm gig that you put on.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was very good. That was a great lineup. Yeah, but Alessio on that Sunday night, it wasn't the one just gone. It was a Sunday before. That room was rowdy.
Yeah.
That room was very rowdy. That room was very rowdy, and there was a bit going on in the crowd, and it was the end of the night too, and
Yeah.
it was kind of felt like it was falling apart a little bit. Alessio comes on and just absolutely silenced the place.
Yeah.
And then just...
Yeah, he was great.
I felt a little bit of pee dribble out while I was like...
He did that the 3 times he was on. Just smashed it every time.
Destroys.
Yeah.
I reckon that's his... it could be his ideal crowd. But I reckon I could see Alessio doing a stadium, like a big, big show one day.
I could see him playing a character in a sitcom.
Yeah. That must be so fulfilling for you. It feels like we're finally getting to that full circle point. You know, we've talked a lot about, kind of, you've bridged a lot of gaps for me around your background and the trajectory of that, weaving in Bloke and all that. Oh, here he is.
Who have we got?
We got Lars Calieou.
G'day, mate.
How you doing? I was like, I recognise that guy. Say good day, Lars.
Well, hello, everybody.
You're back.
I just was passing by, so I heard you guys were recording today. I thought I'd come and say hello.
We've been talking about you.
Oh, yeah?
Thank fuck he didn't hear what I said about Canada.
Oh, you got to send me these.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on. I'm going to get to make sure the sign's in focus. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Oh, you're a legend. You're a
We
legend.
wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Comedy Monday Night.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah.
After 20 years of the best open mic in Canada, it shut down on Monday. So
Oh, no way.
yeah,
It finished?
The last one was on Monday.
Oh,
How come?
wow.
Yeah, well, they just 20 years. I mean, James Moore is one of the most beautiful human beings, and his team was fantastic. And they invited Chris and I to perform on the one on Monday, but we were here in Melbourne, so yeah, Comedy Monday Night is.
Every year Lars has taken me over there. I've performed at Comedy Monday Night. So shout out to James Moore and the team there at...
it was Broken City, and then it became Love. Anyway, yeah. So James Moore.
Urban Love? No.
Yeah. Well, they said
Yeah.
it's no longer.
Broken City, we'll call it. Yeah.
There were no official posts on the Comedy Monday Night page, but people have been saying congratulations on 20 years. And it might be that they are building a condo building down there. That might be one of the reasons. But anyway, I just wanted to say hello, gentlemen.
You're
Hello.
a legend.
James
What
Moore.
a sad story to
Happy 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. That's true.
Yeah.
Running an open mic room for 20 years. I mean, it had a pro
That's
MC
huge.
and a pro headliner, but
Yeah.
there was predominantly an open mic room
Yeah.
run for 20 years with a lot of love from James Moore. It was
Yeah.
So I put the shirt on and came to show your millions of listeners.
Yeah.
Calgary, Alberta.
100%. Shout out to Calgary,
Well,
Calgary, Alberta.
I've got the rig hand shirt on. Yeah.
What's that one?
That's a distillery in Edmonton, or just south of Edmonton. Yeah.
Canada represent.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Good.
you should have told me. Should have sent me the memo to bring my Canada shirt.
He's off. He's deaf.
Well, I was just kind of saying that it feels like it's come full circle for you. You're now at the point where you're giving other people a platform, and it's kind of like you've taken that on as your
People did that for me on the way up. Yep. You know,
the Alessios of the world and the Dilruks of the world.
it's fulfilling to see them progress. You know, the guys that are going to have a longevity in the industry.
Do you remember either Dilruk or Alessio's first gigs versus now? Like, have you seen them progress not only from how, I guess, what they do to an audience, but in their material?
Definitely. I couldn't tell you anything of any of their material from back then, but I remember them both being nervous on my stage and struggling through their sets. Yeah. And, now they just get up there with confidence and they know what they're doing.
And you've met so many comedians on your journey, what's the thing that people need to? What's the number one thing that a stand-up comic, an emerging stand-up comic, needs to know if they're taking on?
Oh, there's so many things. I always say, the first thing I always say to anyone is make sure you're having fun.
Yeah.
Don't be scared being up there. You're doing this because you want to do it. No one else made you do it.
Yeah.
So make sure you have fun. And if you're having fun, the audience will see that. And, they'll have fun with you. That's infectious.
Yeah.
So even if you're nervous, project the fact that you're having fun when you're up there.
Mm.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's gold. Just reminds me of the show on the Tuesday night where I can't remember the guy's name, but he was just that was tough to watch. It was strong stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah. I can't remember his name either.
Lars came on and was like, cold
Weak-
stuff,
weak stuff.
weak stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good thing about that. Like, it's a good thing about that show is that it doesn't matter how it goes.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
And
It's that you got up there.
I set it up in a way where it's a pro, then two open micers, then a pro, then two open micers, then a pro, then two open micers, then Lars.
Yeah.
So it's going to have strong points all the way through the show, even if the two open micers fail. But
Yep.
9 times out of 10, 4 of those 6 will work,
I've got
So-
another tinny here.
No, I'm good, man.
Are you
I'm
sure?
good. Yeah. Mm.
Well,
How are we doing for time?
Well, we're pretty much done. Should we close out on a question?
Yeah, sure.
Australia has the oldest crystals on Earth. 'Cause we're awesome, mate.
That's
That
not-
wasn't even a question.
No.
That's what it says.
Yeah, right.
Does it?
Obviously talking about crystal meth.
What a way to close that out. Mate, it's been so good to have you on. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Louis, Lars said he had such a good time, and I didn't even know this happened. So, as soon as you said you wanted to have me on, I said I'll be down here, no worries.
Well,
and then when I couldn't make the scheduled time, I said, can we fit it in today? Because I really wanted to do it, and it's been a lot of fun.
No, I really appreciate that, honestly. And I had such a great time with Lars.
Nice.
And when he was like, "Oh, you should get my mate Chris on," I was like, "Oh, I'd love to." But
Well-
then like I said before, I was like a little intimidated. I was like, "This guy, he wouldn't do this little podcast in this laneway."
And here I fucking am.
Turns out he needed a laneway.
And of course, Lars had to come and gate crash it.
No, well, I'm glad he did. So that the
Why?
audience
Because this
could
was
put a
going nowhere.
face. Well, just so the audience could put a face to the name, and so
Yeah.
that he could give out a shout out to that comedy club.
Yeah, Comedy Monday night.
Yeah, I think we do need to do more of that. Like, talk about the places that have helped develop the community
Yeah, for sure.
more. And hopefully that means that, the more we learn to shout out the places while they're still open, the less they'll be shutting down,
Yeah, that's right. Mm.
in my opinion.
Yep.
And sometimes there's good reason for them to shut down. Maybe they've just come to their end. Maybe the people have passed away, something.
But
But,
sometimes one shutting down leads to something else.
Exactly.
An example is the Star and Garter in South Melbourne was a great little venue.
Yep.
It was Thursday night comedy there. Jim Owen and Bob Franklin started there.
Yep.
They were living as backpackers upstairs.
Jim Owen.
Yeah. So that shut down because they pulled the pub down to build condos, like what Lars said is happening with Broken City.
Yep.
But because of that, the manager of that pub, Tony O'Sullivan, approached 4 of us comedians as investors, and we created the Comics Lounge. That became that.
Which is incredible. And that's an institution now in Melbourne.
Yeah. Mm.
It's one of the top venues in Australia and in the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and you were part of that.
At the start, yeah.
Yeah. So you've etched your name into Australian folklore, I suppose.
I've drank and staggered my way in there, I think.
And it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you being here so much. I'd love to do this again with you sometime if you're ever back in Melbourne. Maybe we'll do the boat one. Who knows?
Sounds great, Louis. Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I'll clap this one out as well.
Cheers, mate.
Because I need to make sure I sync the sound. 1, 2, 3. Chris Franklin. Awesome.
No worries.
Legend.